It's Nowruz in Iran, the Persian New Year. It marks the arrival of spring. But this year, no one is celebrating here. Iran is under partial lockdown in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The number of coronavirus infections in Iran has been staggering. The nation was already crippled by economic sanctions and political turmoil. And now Iranians fear that the true scale of the outbreak is worse than what's being disclosed.
یک مصیبتی پیش آمده، یک ویروسی آمده، این ویروس هم الان حدود 40 تا کشور دنیا رو مبتلا کرده، همه جا رو مبتلا میکنه. این به هر حال یه جوری است که همه کشورها میره، یعنی یک مسافر بی دعوت و نامیمون برای خودش سفر میکنه، هر جایی میره. خب باید عبور.
The country disclosed its first case of the virus on the 19th of February. And in the month that followed, more than 17,000 cases were reported. The death toll rose above 1,700 in mid-March and has kept growing. Field hospitals have been set up in parking lots, stadiums, and wedding halls to handle the overflow of patients. This temporary hospital is in the country's largest shopping center. An estimated 3,000 hospital beds are being moved here.
البته قدرتش این قدرت اقتصادی بزرگی هست، امکانات خوبی داره، اما خب به هر شکل توی کشور ما تعامل، وحدت و نگاه و مدل و مدیریت جهادی میطلبه که از امکانات اینطور استفاده بشه. ما هم بنا به امکان و ظرفیت که داشتیم کمتر از یک هفته جهت اطلاع هموطنان شما با اینکه ما از شما الگو برداشتیم متعاقباً هدیه‌ای شد به مملکت ما و سایر دول.
Despite the health crisis, the United States has imposed further sanctions on the country. At the same time, it's also offered medical aid.
We're trying to help. We continue to offer assistance to Iran in numerous ways, and we will continue to do so. We have an open humanitarian channel to facilitate legitimate transactions, even while ensuring our maximum pressure campaign denies terrorists money.
But the country's supreme leader has rejected American help and suggested the COVID-19 outbreak is a targeted attack, genetically engineered against Iran.
آمریکایی‌ها چند بار تا حالا سران آمریکا گفتن که ما حاضریم که از لحاظ درمان و دارو به شما کمک کنیم. چند بار تکرار کردن فقط شما از ما بخواهید تا ما به شما از لحاظ دارو و درمان کمک کنیم. این جزو اون حرفای بسیار عجیبه که به ما میگن که از اونها درمان بخواهیم و دارو بخواهیم. اولا خودتون دچار کم بودید. الان خبرهایی که از آمریکا میرسه در دارو و اینها خودشون اگر چیزی دارید دستتون بازه صرف خودتون بکنید.
The exchanges are a result of decades of hostilities between the US and Iran. But the health crisis unfolding in the Islamic Republic has triggered a more dramatic emergency. The government's handling of the crisis, the lack of medical facilities, and many Iranians ignoring restrictions before the Persian New Year have only made things worse. This post on Twitter shows how many people chose to ignore government warnings about exposure. Tehran's bazaars were packed before the holiday. The tweet read, "This is a picture of the failure of all the policies and rhetoric of Rouhani and his government in battling the coronavirus." Nowhere else have more senior government figures caught the coronavirus. One of them is the Deputy Health Minister. He looked sick when he appeared at a press conference in late February to say the country had the outbreak under control. Just hours later, he announced on social media that he had tested positive. But that still hasn't taken people off the streets. 2020 had already been one of the most tumultuous years in the country's recent history, and many Iranians are viewing the global pandemic as another crisis in a long line of hardships. Even the country's religious leader has asked worshippers to stay at home, but these were the scenes outside one of the mosques in Qom, the epicenter of the outbreak in Iran. Many Iranians blame clerics for condemning the quarantine measures and underestimating the infection rate. Iran is believed to be the source of the first coronavirus cases reported in neighboring Afghanistan, Iraq, and several Gulf states. And in March, reports emerged that some prisoners were showing symptoms of COVID-19. That led to the temporary release of 85,000 inmates. Iran has a shortage of testing kits, and it's still seeing a deadly surge in infections.
در مورد تهیه ماسک و در ضد عفونی کننده ها اینا خب به هر حال کمبود داریم. خب اینم طبیعیه، خب جاهایی که بیشتر درگیرن بردن اونجاها. خب
Medical workers have been saying on social media that many doctors and nurses are among the dead.
مردم عزیز ایران، امسال به خاطر مشکلاتی که به وجود آمده و به خاطر بیماری کرونا از شما خواهش می‌کنم عید امسال مسافرت نرید. سفر پرخطر، سفر بی‌سفر.
Turkey has sent in trucks to deliver vital medical supplies. And Tehran has asked the International Monetary Fund for emergency funding to help it fight the crisis. But the Islamic Republic is now more isolated than ever. And the government's been unable to contain the crisis. The pandemic has already taken a devastating toll on the Iranian people, and as the weeks pass, it may only get worse.